Good evening, everybody. There are several questions. Number one is a Zen question. Can you talk about silence of sound of silence? You should not use your ear to hear the sound of silence. Can you hear the sound of silence without using your ears? Well, how is it related to jhana? Now, even if you don't make verbal sound, there always is inner chip inside your mind. And if you can learn how to silence that, you are fully enlightened. Because even if you are in jhana, even in the first jhana, there are 16 mental states. As I said, vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekaggata, mindfulness, saddha, virya, samadhi, all these are mental states. According to Anupada Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha has listed the mental state that Venerable Sariputta was going through when he was in jhanas. And therefore, even in the jhanic state, there are inner communication, talk. Real silence arises when you learn to be alone. That is what is called ideal solitude. If you learn to live in solitude, only then can you have real silence. Otherwise, solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is without a second. Eka vihari, na dutiya vihari. In Pali it says eka vihari, na dutiya vihari. Wherever we go, wherever we live, we always have a companion in us. What is this companion? Our greed. Even if you go to the moon, you go with this companion, and companion talk to you, and you talk to the companion. And therefore you are not alone. Only when you have learned to overcome this or get rid of this companion, you will be in ideal solitude. Only then can you experience the real, deep, profound silence without words. Another thing, friends, to reach that stage, from the very beginning of our meditation, we recommend people not to verbalize anything. The truth is not a word. Truth is things as they are. For instance, impermanence is truth. Impermanence is not a word, although we use a word to express impermanence, but the impermanence itself is not word. Suffering is not a word. You experience it. Selflessness is not a word. You experience it. So, when you come to this state, free from greed, hatred, and delusion. You are in the state where you have this, you can have sound of silence. Sound of silence is peace. And that is called upasama sukha, happiness of cessation, happiness of peace. Now, next question. You have rewarded me handsomely with so many questions. So let me try to answer as many as I can. Pure mind, silent mind, correct? Yes. Next, on this page there are 3 questions. The third question is, please tell us more about rapture. Rapture is called piti, which arises, as I mentioned yesterday, by degrees. First, joy arises, or piti arises in what you call momentarily, in a very tiny little tingling you experience, and that increases by degrees and rise quick waves like joy, rapture, then uplifting rapture, then pervasive, it pervades all over your body and mind. That is another stage of rapture. Then there is a rapture which makes your whole body very light. And I also must say, rapture, neither rapture nor happiness is an excitement. It is totally different from the opposite of excitement. When you are excited, you are agitated, restless. Rapture is just the opposite of it. You are not agitated, not excited. Your mind is very calm and peaceful, which leads to happiness, contentment, and then that leads to concentration. And therefore, rapture is a precursor to happiness, which is the stepping stone to gaining concentration. Next question, where is the mind? My goodness, I myself am trying to find out where it is. Friends, you can never find mind over there, existing over there, hanging from the clouds, or in a room. Mind arises when the mentality and materiality come together, consciousness arises. When mentality and materiality arises, together with that, simultaneously with mentality and materiality, consciousness arises. It does not exist independent of mentality and materiality. What is mentality? Mentality is Phassa Vedana Sanya Chetana Manasikara. These 5 group or this cluster of 5 together is called mentality. Contact, feeling, perception, thoughts, and attention. But they themselves cannot exist without materiality. What is the materiality? That unit made up of 4 elements: earth, water, fire, air elements. When this mentality of 5 members, 5 limbs of mentality are contact, feeling, perceptions, thought, and attention. And then this 4 combination of unit of 4 called elements. When these 2 come to existence, at that moment, simultaneously with that, consciousness arises. Consciousness cannot exist by itself. And therefore, you can never find consciousness alone. And try to find out consciousness is a waste of time. And you can never find it. Then, another question, is jhana impermanent? Once attained a certain level of jhana, will it regress to lower level or even be lost? Yes, jhana is not permanent. It definitely is impermanent. And once attained a certain level of jhana, will it regress to lower level? When you attain a certain jhana, you will not regress to the lower level, you will lose it. When you attain certain jhana, if any jhanic factor, suppose you attain the first jhana. As I mentioned yesterday, the jhanic factor is one team and hindrances are together one team. Now these two teams are competing with each other. When hindrance team becomes strong, even one of the hindrances, what are the hindrances? Greed, anger, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry and doubt. These are 5 hindrances. If any of these hindrances becomes strong, you will lose the jhana. So, suppose you are in the second jhana. According to Sutra, Pali, Sutta tradition, there are 4 jhanas. According to Abhidhamma tradition, there are 5 jhanas. Why there are 5 and why there are 4? 4 jhanas are for more intellectual persons. That means when they attain the second jhana from the first one, since he is very skillful, he will be able to overcome 2 mental states, initial thought and sustained thought, when he attains the second jhana. So when he attains the third jhana, he will overcome joy, and when he attains the fourth jhana, he will overcome happiness. But somebody who is not very skillful, less intellectual, needs more time, more steps. So he will overcome only one of the 5 fetters five mental factors or jhanic factors. For instance, when he attains the second jhana, he will overcome only initial thought, vitakka. When he attains the second jhana, he would overcome vichara, and so forth. He would take 5 steps to overcome 5 jhanic factors, so he will attain 5 jhanas. It is very much like climbing steps. Suppose there are 5 steps. Somebody is very robust and skillful, young and athletic type. He can skip the first and go to the second straight away. Somebody who is old and weak like myself would take time to go step, leave only one, get into only one step at a time. So anyway, when you are in the second jhana, if your jhanic factor becomes weak, you don't fall into the first jhana. You will lose second jhana and you will lose jhana. Then you have to start all over again. If you are in the third jhana and become your joy becomes stronger while you are in the second jhana, you will lose the third jhana, and you lose second and first as well. So you don't regress from higher to lower at any time. Okay, the next question. For a beginner who is already in his 40s and 50s, what level can one achieve in this lifetime? My dear friend, whoever asked this question, this is sort of a question rather impossible to answer, because this person in his or her 40s and 50s, if that person is a meditator and he has trained himself or herself for a long period of time in meditation, that person may not take longer than any other person. All depends on the person's own personal experience, personal practice. If somebody who has never practiced and want to start everything from scratch, would take much longer time. And this sort of questions is not easy to answer, because all depends on individual, personal practice, temperaments, how much time the person spends in meditation, how healthy the person is, how energetic the person is, and so forth. Third question in the same on the same paper is how can we ensure that whatever level of jhana that he has achieved will not be lost, and that he need not start all over again once again in next life. Well, friends, there is no guarantee. Only guarantee one will get is only when the person has attained the stream entry. Until one attains the stream entry, all other attainments are not ensured, because anything can happen. They can lose whatever they have gained. However, because of their previous life's experience, they will be more interested in learning quickly, and they will go into the practice. They will find good persons, good friend, suitable environment, and mental inclination is there. And therefore, that person may get into the practice. But there's no guarantee that the person will be born with the same mental state. Next question. Focusing on the breath is easier, but I am not sure how one goes about concentrate on what. If you find focusing mind on the breath is easier, that itself is where you have to focus your mind on, the breath. Actually, breath is the easiest object to focus the mind on, even to gain concentration. Because breath is very natural. You don't have to make any special effort to find the breath. It is always there. One thing you notice in breath is that it is dynamic. It's not static. It's moving in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out all the time. However, when you keep paying attention to this in and out breath, the mind remembers remembers its pattern, the repetition. So when you keep the mind on the repetition, the mind gets so used to it, it slowly be with the breath and unite with the breath, and as breath becomes calm, mind becomes calm, breath becomes subtle, mind becomes subtle, and sometimes you may even notice that the breath, it becomes so subtle, it disappears. That means you do not feel the breath. When you do not feel the breath, since the mind has already been conditioned to stay in this calm, subtle state, even without the breath, mind gains concentration. It is just like, I don't know whether you are familiar with the children learning to swim. I have seen parents bring the children to the swimming pool, and the trainer or the teacher is in the water with the floating board. Parents or he put the child on the board, and the child with legs and hands swim using the board to float. And slowly, after a while, they remove the board, floating board, and the child stays in water, floating. Similarly, when we use the breath, since it becomes so, mind becomes so accustomed to the breath, and breath and mind unite together, and slowly breath becomes quiet, calm, relaxed, peaceful, subtle, mind goes along with that. And then even if there is no breath, mind stays in the same state. And therefore, the breath is the best object to gain concentration. Another question. When we do mindfulness of breath, is it all right to focus on the rising and falling of the abdomen and chest at the same time? Now, when you practice mindfulness of breathing, you can notice the rising and falling of the chest and abdomen, or feeling the sensation at the nasal area. One thing for mindfulness meditation, as you know, mindfulness meditation is more dynamic, and therefore it doesn't matter what object you focus your mind on, you will see, invariably, you will see only three things: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness. No matter what you are focusing your mind on, that particular object is impermanent. It is permanently impermanent. You never find anything permanent. And therefore, anything impermanent is unsatisfactory because of our attachment to impermanent things. Not purely it is because impermanent things are unsatisfactory, but because of our attachment to impermanent things, we definitely experience unsatisfactoriness. And therefore, because of these two steps, when something is impermanent, unsatisfactoriness, that particular thing is not self. So, these three things you see in anything, whether you focus mind on the breath, or the chest, or abdomen, first thing you will notice is impermanence. Rising, falling, appearing, disappearing, and so forth. None of them repeats the same again. Once the breath is gone, gone forever. Once it is arisen and never arises again the same way. Next time, new arising, and so forth. Always something new we experience. So, it doesn't matter which you focus your mind on, abdomen, chest, or nasal area. We have a lot of things to say about this, but I try to restrain myself because of so many questions are here. Is it possible to effectively practice mindfulness and concentration in a sitting? Does one start first with concentration, achieving calmness first, then switch over mindfulness, or the other way round? Now, there are three ways. One is called Samatha Pubbangama Vipassana. The other is Vipassana Pubbangama Samatha. Third is Yuganadha. Samatha Pubbangama Vipassana means you practice mindfulness preceded by concentration. You start with concentration. Suppose at one time in the morning or noon or evening, your concentration is very good. That time practice concentration. Another time your concentration is not good. Your mindfulness is good. Practice mindfulness. Another time you start with mindfulness and halfway your mindfulness is not good, your concentration is good, you practice concentration. However, these two must at one point shake hand. They both must join together in order to realize the three universal characteristics. Mindfulness and concentration must combine together to gain true knowledge of things as they really are. And therefore, it doesn't matter what you start with. with concentration or with mindfulness. Another question. Without jhana, can one attain stream winner in this life? I think I mentioned it casually in yesterday's talk or day before yesterday's talk that even if you have excess concentration, which is sufficient for you to understand, to gain insight, what happens is when you gain excess concentration, your hindrances are suppressed. You have to overcome your hindrances in order to make the mind clear and pure to gain concentration. With that concentration, you can attain the stream entry. I also mentioned two names. One is Upali. In Upali Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya you can see when he was listening to the Buddha, he became so calm, peaceful, and delighted to see the way the Buddha explained the Dharma, and he was so happy his hindrances all subsided. Mind became so clear. Udagga citta, vinivarana citta, pasanna citta, he had at that time. Mind free from hindrances, mind was full of gladness, full of joy, full of happiness, gain concentration and attain the stream entry. Suppabuddha, a beggar who had was sick and a beggar, he had a rash, skin disease. He was listening to the Dhamma while Buddha was preaching Dhamma, and he attained the stream entry. There are many incidents where people have attained the stream entry while listening to Dhamma. They have not attained jhanas, but they have gained sufficient concentration, which is almost like jhanic quality concentration. All you have to do is to get rid of your hindrances temporarily. Hold them at bay. Then, at that time, mind becomes clear. So, to gain enough concentration. But attaining jhana makes it easier. In any jhana, there is a discourse in Majjhima Nikaya called Attaka Nagara Sutta, where Venerable Ananda explained a way to attain higher stages to a man called Dasama. His name is Dasama. So there he explained how to attain enlightenment from the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and so forth. And in other places we can see people have attained jhana, attained stream entry without attaining any jhana. Another question. Two-rooted person cannot attain jhana in this life. What is two-rooted person? Okay. Tihetuka, duhetuka. Two-rooted, when you hear the word two-rooted in English, it doesn't make any sense. So, since we have learned the Pali term, I was able to understand this. But if you tell this to anybody, two-rooted person, like two-legged person, but doesn't make any sense. Anyway, the question is if a person is not born with non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, that is called tihetuka. Somebody is born maybe with less greed, less hatred, but he may have delusion. Such a person is called duhetuka. Two hetu, two wholesome mental states. Anyway, can attain jhana. I think that person might take much longer time than the one who is born with three wholesome roots. Because there are, you remember when Buddha attained enlightenment, he surveyed the world and he saw the whole world was like a lotus, the lake with full of lotus. Some lotus are at the very bottom of the river, of the lake. Others have come few inches above mud, and others have come little higher, and some have come above water and ready to blossom. These are called Uggatitanya, Vipanchitanya, Nyaya, Padaparama. Uggatitanya means one who listens to the topic, just the topic, Uddesa. As soon as he heard 2-3 words, he attains stream entry. Vipanchitanya is a person who needs some uddesa, nidesa, little further explanation for him to attain enlightenment. Nyaya, third person, needs lot of encouragement, lot of advices, lot of discussions, meeting with the teacher, having lot of encouragement with Kalyana Mitta, excellent friend, and mindful reflection, listening to good Dharma, so many things he needs, and it takes a very, very long time for him to attain stream entry. That may be one with 2 roots, 2 wholesome roots. But the last one, Pada Parama, 99.99% are Pada Paramas. Pada Parama means their best are words. They like to talk and talk and talk and write and write and read and read and listen to Dharma talks, and they pass examinations and do research entire life. They will even know the number of words in the Tripitaka. Never attain enlightenment. They are so most of us are like that. Pada Paramas, the best word to describe our situation. Okay, next question is, do not meditate, that is the work of the monk. Okay. Do not meditate, that is the work of the monk. This is a misnomer. This is actually not right, not correct. Meditation is universal. Anybody can meditate. Whether they become successful or not, that is a different thing. Anybody can meditate. So it is not a monk's work. There are monks who do not meditate. And there are lay people, meditating lay people. Another question. In discussing the first jhana, you explained the third right initial thoughts, or 3 right initial thoughts, which are renunciation, metta, and karuna. You mentioned that these three initial thoughts are part of applied thought. When you conduct the meditation, you only use the breath to develop concentration. At which stage do we use the three thoughts of renunciation, metta, and karuna when meditating? Okay. Actually, this is also very good question, requiring a lot of information to clarify the answer. Friends, when we meditate, what we normally do? What we do? We don't allow greed to arise. We don't let greed arise. Not letting greed arise in mind is the thought of renunciation. You renounce greed. You renounce wanting. When you are meditating, you think of all kind of desire arises in mind. Say, you want to, while you are meditating, all of a sudden you remember very delicious ice cream. You don't go after ice cream. You let it go. Because if you eat ice cream, you cannot meditate at all. Before eating ice cream, you are agitated, excited, thinking about ice cream. So you think if you eat ice cream, you can meditate. So you slowly tiptoe to the kitchen and open the fridge and take some ice cream and eat and come to meditation. Can you meditate? No, because a lot of sugar is in you. This sugar activates your brain because it brings a lot of energy. You cannot meditate. So before you getting involved in this mess, you tell yourself, no, I let go of this ice cream. I have eaten ice cream thousands of times in my life. Ice cream is not going to disappear from the refrigerator. It will be there. If not this time, I can buy ice cream another time. I am not going to be a slave to ice cream. Let it go. You let it go. Or you all of a sudden remember to go to see a movie while you say, that's a desire. You say to yourself, no, I don't want to watch movie. I want to have a more quiet, peaceful time in this sitting, meditation. Like that, you let go of your greed. That is called renunciation. Renunciation normally understood to be leaving home, going to a monastery, shaving head, putting on yellow robe and becoming a monk or nun. Friends, that may be higher step, bigger, giant step of renunciation. Before we take a giant step for renunciation, we have to take a small steps. Small steps are letting go of wanting. Needing is one thing, wanting is another. Now, we let go of this unnecessary wanting of so many things, small things, and that is how we practice renunciation. So, you ask the question, when to practice? This is how to practice. Where to practice? This is where we have to practice it. Similarly, when anger arises, anger can arise any time. There's no time, place or situation. Anytime it can arise. Then we do everything possible to let go of our anger and cultivate metta, loving friendliness. As a last resort, we cultivate metta, not at the beginning. And the third, when we cultivate metta, we also cultivate at the same time compassion, karuna, anytime in our meditation. So this is how these three types of initial thought we develop, cultivate. And when we attain jhana, friends, these mental states, the mental state of letting go, the state of loving friendliness, metta, compassion, becomes very powerful mental factor to make our mind calm and gain concentration. Greed is the opposite of concentration. Hatred is opposite of concentration. Thought of harming is the enemy of concentration. So when we let go of them and cultivate thought of generosity, letting go, thought of friendliness, thought of compassion, that helps to gain concentration. So these are three thoughts I mentioned. Now you may have noticed that I go against a conventional, traditional translation of initial thought and sustained thought. Traditional translation of vitakka vichara are initial thought and sustained thought. Initial thought and sustained thought does not make any sense. Does not make any sense. Vitakka does not mean initial thought. Vitakka does not mean initial thought. Sustained thought, what you call vichara, does not mean sustained thought. There has to be thought. Vitakka, sankappa, vitakka, sankappa are used in Pali tradition in many, many, many places. But there is no even a shade of initial and sustained in any Pali tradition. I never know that. I don't know why it is translated like initial thought and sustained thought. Visuddhimagga explains like a bee coming to the flower and buzzing around the flower and before it sits on the flower, this sort of thing. This is not a Buddhist terms, Buddhist explanation. This is a Hindu explanation. Venerable Buddhaghosa used kasinas to explain all these things without completely ignoring the main Buddhist principles, particularly when he was explaining jhana. So personally I disagree with that. I want to be consistent with the teachings of the Buddha. And therefore my translation is a little different, but to me it makes sense. Last question, because we need some time to meditate now. I don't want to spend all the time answering questions, and I'm trying to answer the last one. On one hand, the 5 factors for the first jhanas are applied thought, sustained thought, rapture, happiness, and one-pointedness of mind. On the other hand, the sutras also talk about developing the learning sign, counterpart sign, and access concentration in the first jhana. Friends, this is not correct. Sutta does not talk about learning sign, concentration sign, and access concentration. These are commentarial material. Commentaries talk about learning sign, counterpart sign, and access concentration. However, I don't want to quarrel with these terms. Ugga nimitta, patibhaga nimitta, upachara samadhi, etc. the learning sign means object. When we want to practice concentration meditation, the object itself is called learning sign, Uggha Nimitta. Patibhaga Nimitta means counterpart sign. Counterpart sign means when you focus the mind. This is especially in Visuddhimagga, Venerable Buddha goes and other places in his commentaries, these terms used. Especially when you use kasina meditation, kasina object. When you focus the mind on an object like a kasina object, kasina means entirety. To represent a certain entire thing of a certain thing, like earth, to represent the entire earth, we take some very refined earth of ash color and focus the mind on it. That disc you make out of it is 9 inches in diameter. Disc you make, put it 18 inches close to you at your eye level and focus your mind on it. And then that object, that disc is called Uggha Nimitta, learning sign. Then you keep focusing your mind, gazing at it, gazing, and close your eyes. Then you will remember the entire disc in your mind. You remember. That memorized image is called counterpart sign. So you focus your mind on that. Then all the hindrances gradually fade away, and then you will have a degree of concentration that's called access concentration. Access concentration means just before gaining true concentration, you will be able to overcome hindrances. At that time, mind gains certain degree of concentration, not full concentration. Therefore, it is called access concentration. So, now your questions are, how do these relate to each other? The 5 jhanic factors and counterpart sign and so forth. When the hindrances are subsided, this counterpart sign and so forth appear, and then you will have the thought of letting go. That means you have no desire. This is another thing in jhana. If you are attached to a jhana, you cannot. Suppose you attain the first jhana. If you are attached to the first jhana, you cannot go to the second because you get stuck. You have to let go of the first jhana in order to go to the second. It is like climbing a ladder. When you climb a ladder, you stand on the first rung and hold the rung with your hands, upper rungs. If you want to go to the second rung, you have to let go of the one you are standing on and let go of the one you are holding on. If you are not letting go of the one you are standing on, you cannot climb the ladder. So similarly, you have to shouldn't have a desire, clinging, craving for any particular attainment. You have to let go of it. That is the thought of renunciation, thought of letting go. One of the hindrances is greed. We have to let go of the greed. That is renunciation. So, what is sustained thought? What you call vichara. Vichara is sustaining, maintaining, keeping that mental state in the jhana. So friends, the this very lovely, wonderful, thank you very much for asking these very meaningful questions. There's another one? Okay. Now, this means our sitting meditation has to be started few minutes late. I sit daily for vipassana practice with some friends, and one of them asked if vipassana practice can heal diseases, even serious diseases. What does the Venerable think about it? Okay. Friends, some diseases we can prevent, and some even we can overcome, but not all. Sometimes we can prevent certain diseases. Suppose somebody is habitually getting angry over and over, again and again, for very tiny, minute things. Somebody can get angry all the time. That person can develop a stomach ulcer. Why? When anger arises, it really generates very unwholesome negative hormones in our brain. And that person lose appetite. When you lose appetite, you cannot eat, your stomach walls will eat up. The gas, digestive juice produced in the stomach can cause some harm, hurt your stomach walls. And that way you may develop stomach ulcer. Now, if you meditate, you can prevent that. If you sincerely, honestly do the right kind of meditation to get rid of your anger, your nagging, very nasty, miserable anger, you can get rid of. That way you can stop stomach ulcer. Suppose somebody is getting headache very often, not migraine headache, but nervous headache caused by nervousness, nervous tension, anxiety, worry, fear. If the person meditates regularly, the mind becomes so calm, relaxed and peaceful, the person will be able to overcome that headache or prevent it from happening. I don't know, sometimes blood pressure. I don't vouch for that because I myself had blood pressure. Although I have been meditating for many years, I developed blood pressure. It is not because of my other things, but cholesterol. Cholesterol, 80% of our cholesterol is produced by the liver, only 20% from food. So even if I eat good, healthy vegetarian food, still cholesterol builds up in my liver, and that might have caused my high blood pressure. That is my theory. Anyway, pressure can be reduced through meditation to some extent. This sort of things we can prevent and stop, but major diseases particularly various mental states, the diseases caused by numerous negative mental states can be prevented and overcome. So with this, I think I want to conclude tonight's session, talking session. Now we start doing little meditation. Please take the paper and recite metta. By now perhaps you may remember the passages. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds, whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth. May all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm another. As a mother would risk her life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. Now we may turn off the light. Sit in comfortable posture and relax your body and mind. Pay attention to the breath. When we pay attention to the breath or feelings rising and falling of the abdomen or the chest area, all we must notice is this natural phenomena of rising, falling, appearing, disappearing. These are not words, so don't use any word without verbalizing, conceptualizing. Simply pay total attention to understand the truth, the reality, the Dharma. Impermanence is Dhamma, unsatisfactoriness is Dhamma, selflessness is Dhamma, which means truth. Impermanence is true. It never becomes otherwise. Unsatisfactoriness is true, it never becomes otherwise. Selflessness is true, and it never becomes otherwise. Without using logic, reasoning, simply pay total attention to have this experience within yourself. You don't need anybody's approval, recommendation to understand impermanence. You experience it yourself. What you experience is the same that I experience. I experience impermanence, you experience impermanence. There's no difference between your experience of impermanence and mine. We all experience honestly, sincerely, without any assumption and preconceived notions. We just become aware of what is happening and stay with that and deepen your insight into this reality. Jhanang apanyasa panyanati adhayato yam hi jhanang cha panyacha save nibbana santike. There's no concentration without wisdom, no wisdom without concentration. One who has both wisdom and concentration is close to peace and emancipation. Sabbitiyo vivajjantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavatantarayo sukhi dirghayuko bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada saddhi bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada saddhi bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada saddhi bhavantu te. Good night, everybody. If you like to ask questions tomorrow evening as well, please write down your question. Some people are very kind. They have even typed the questions, which made me very easy for me to read. Okay?